Hello and welcome to TRT World. This is our continuing coverage of the earthquakes that hit Turkey and Syria on February 6. I'm Ayşe Süberker. It's been 2 weeks since those devastating quakes struck, with the death toll surpassing 40,000 over the weekend. The director of Turkey's Disaster Management Agency says rescue work has been completed, except in southern Kahramanmaraş and Hatay provinces, where the search for life continues. The extent of the damage is also coming into fuller view. Turkish officials said that more than 118,000 buildings have been either destroyed, damaged, or are in immediate need of demolition. The destruction, spread across 10 provinces, has affected more than 13 million people. Hundreds of thousands of survivors have been evacuated from quake-affected areas to other parts of the country. Earlier, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan announced that the building of new residences would begin in March, with a goal of completing them within 1 year. The February 6 magnitude 7.7 and 7.6 quakes were centered in Kahramanmaraş in southern Turkey, which were followed by several thousand aftershocks that lasted days. And now to discuss the latest developments from the devastated region and aid efforts. Joining me now from Ankara is Ibrahim Ozer. He is the Director General for Disaster Management at the Turkish Red Crescent. Ibrahim, welcome to TRT World and thanks for joining me. So 2 weeks have passed since Turkey was struck by one of the worst disasters. What's the situation like in the region?
Thank you so much for having me to the program and to speak about Turkish Red Crescent's activities along with other fields. Well, as you mentioned, 2 weeks already passed. We were there from the zero moment. It's still ongoing. All the operations are ongoing. There's a devastation situation in the field. You're also in the field. I know. I've seen you and also other media. The situation was quite worse. When we talk about the time of the season, it's winter time, and some of those places were quite cold, especially in the night. And people were just trying to keep their hope to just, get some good news from the search and rescue teams.
So how are search and rescue operations going in Hatay and Kahramanmaraş? I mean, have efforts to find survivors slowed down?
Search and rescue operations are running by AFAD, as you know. We, as Turkish Red Crescent, we also be part of search and rescue. We have a team as well, not in the field at the moment. But we work very closely with AFAD because we provide hot meals to the people affected and also to the people working just to save people under the rubbles for the search and rescue operations. Still ongoing. I mean, until they hear the last breath, they just keep tirelessly, working in the field. And it's just going to go on and on.
Now that the focus seems to have turned to recovery and cleanup, what's the roadmap?
Well, this is the next stage, and it's a big work right now. We're talking about thousands of big trucks to take all these rubbles outside of the cities. It is a huge work, and this is the second stage. So that's after the second stage. Government are just going to have a place for the people to stay as a mid-term solutions until they get the long-term solutions. So that stage is just going to go tirelessly again, and for us as well, because we need to support those people working just to take all these mess outside of the cities.
So, Ibrahim, how are survivors being taken care of? I mean, what are the challenges you are facing, and what is needed the most at the moment?
Well, at any disaster, during any disaster, there are two main functions that we have to be in the field at the moment. One is the shelter, that we have to provide shelter to the people. And second function is nutrition. But there is another function coming along with those two functions, which is psychosocial support. And it's not only for the people affected, but the whole nation affected. But directly, our psychosocial support staff, along with other governmental departments, staff are working very closely with those people just to make sure that they pass that trauma. It's huge, it's big. As a nation, we won't forget this trauma, of course, but we need to make sure that especially those people need to get the actions right away.
So what will experts be looking out for when dealing with children who are earthquake survivors or maybe lost some members of their families?
Well, there are different stages of psychosocial supports. First one that we have some special tents, especially for kids in the field. We get those kids and we try to just get the life as normal life going around. We have some of the activities working with kids so then they can at least pass by that trauma quickly. But at the same time, we need to analyze and see what is stable, what is going with the kids. So then we can refer to a next stage. But right now, at the moment, we are there. We show them that we are with them. We're not going to leave them alone. We will be with them until the last type of the operation.
So are you still facing some difficulties in dispatching some basic needs and shelters to the rural areas?
Well, let me just give you some numbers, some figures. Out of those 10 cities that we had the figures, we have about 3,600 cities or neighborhoods. So for the first, I think on the second or third day, we had Turkish Red Crescent volunteers and staff visiting all of these cities, the villages, one by one, to analyze at the city, at the villages, to see what they need. And at the same time, we had about 30 volunteers at the HQ to make the phone calls just to find out whether there is another need that we missed or there is anything else that we can actually provide. So right now, we had covered all of these villages, but then we will be providing whatever they need, if it is a food baskets or if it is blankets or some other needs that we will be providing repeatedly.
So during the aftermath of the earthquakes, thousands of Turkish volunteers have registered at airports in hopes of going to go to the affected regions. How has that played out, and will you need more volunteers in the upcoming period?
We have a volunteering system. We have all these volunteers registered in our system already, and they need to take some of these trainings, which they already did. So according to their backgrounds, we placed them at the requirement place. So from the first day of the earthquake until the 14th day, we had extra 52,000 volunteers registered already. The number can be high or less, but what we do is basically trying to make sure that whoever is needed in the field, then we get that number of volunteers in the field just to make sure that they provide services to those people.
So Ibrahim, now that thousands of people have left the region and much more of that is expected to leave, what kind of planning and management should be employed moving forward?
Well, that's another scenario. So there are some of the people they already left the region because whether they were safe and they would not want to stay in the city because majority of the city already collapsed. So according to some of the figures, the number is quite high. But then by the government's force that they were transferred to safer zones, to dormitories or some of the governmental places, the number that we received is about 150,000 people already. So those people, they registered and they were transferred by buses or by planes to dormitories. And so for those people, there's also another part of the need, which is hot meals and some other needs like clothing or shoes that they may need. There's already work behind that one that we work with AFAD to see in the long run how we support them, how AFAD is supporting. So they are covered already. They are already in the dormitories, and other part of the transfer is also being done.
All right, Ibrahim, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on TRT World. Right after the February 6 quake struck, dozens of countries mobilized to provide both search and rescue teams and crucial aid supplies. Turkey's disaster management agency says that more than 9,000 international workers participated in post-quake operations and that nearly 100 countries offered assistance. Many that were the first to provide aid were both longtime allies and countries that Ankara saw a year of tense relations. Let's take a look at this report.
A catastrophe of this scale has been followed by an equally large flow of an international aid. Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlüt says 76 countries have sent search and rescue teams to the region. One of them is the US, which has sent a rescue team, medical supplies and equipment. And President Joe Biden announced $85 million for both Turkey and Syria. During his tour of Hatay, alongside his Turkish counterpart Mevlüt Çavuşoğlu, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also promised an additional $100 million. He says this will be a long-term effort and that a major rebuilding operation is next.
The most important thing right now is to get assistance to people who need it, to get them through the winter, and to get them back on their feet. But simply put, the United States is here. We stand strongly with the people of Turkey and the people of Syria through our NGO implementing partners, and we'll stick with it until we all get the job done.
Although Turkey and U.S. relations have been ruffled by the stalled sale of F-16 fighter jets to Ankara, Washington has viewed its NATO ally as a helpful mediator between Russia and Ukraine. Just like the US, Greece has also put disputes in the Aegean and over a divided Cyprus aside to help Turkey out during these tough times. And it's not the first time the two countries have stood together. They also aided each other in 1999 when two massive earthquakes struck both countries about 20 days apart. And this time, Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlüt Çavuşoğlu has hailed Greece for being among the first countries to help. Alongside his Greek counterpart Nikos Dendias, Çavuşoğlu visited the earthquake-stricken areas last week as well as the Greek search and rescue team.
It is important for us to help each other during difficult times, but I had said that we should not wait for another earthquake to improve our relations. Back then, I said this as a Turkish citizen. Today, as Turkey's foreign minister, I still think the same.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, together with the Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar, also visited the port city of Iskenderun. He emphasized that NATO will set up temporary residences and move thousands of tents to Turkey in the coming days. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres also announced a humanitarian aid fund of $1 billion to Turkey to provide earthquake relief for 5.2 million people in the next 3 months. Belgium, Russia, India, and Spain are among those who set up field hospitals. The United Kingdom, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Armenia, Italy, Germany, France, Japan, China, Iran, South Korea, and Israel have also brought rescue staff, health equipment, and humanitarian aid to the stricken regions. Çavuşoğlu has thanked all these countries for their support. The hope now is for this solidarity to become even stronger and move beyond what's often called earthquake diplomacy. Esra Dürüst, TRT World.
And to discuss the diplomatic opening stemming from post-quake relief efforts, joining me now from Ankara is Tudor Onea. He is an associate professor at Bilkent University. And from Washington, D.C., Mark Meirowitz. He is a professor at SUNY Maritime College. Gentlemen, welcome to TRT World, and thanks for joining me. So, Turkey-U.S. relations have seen many ups and downs in the past few years, but the U.S. has been out at the forefront providing aid for Turkey. So, Tudor, what do you make of U.S. Secretary of State Blinken's Turkey visit, where he expressed full support and solidarity to Turkey?
This was a goodwill visit, and as we can see, this wasn't really the only visit that Turkey has seen over the last few weeks. The thing is, while this support is the polite, the considerate thing to do, There are also substantial discussions to be had, and from what I understand, they are going to be happening today, and this concerns essentially the bid for accession to NATO of Sweden and Finland. And the thing is, and I wanted to touch upon this, although there is, of course, a good amount of sympathy for the plight of Turkey in these days, this doesn't necessarily mean that this is a magic moment where all the differences of interests and of perceptions between Turkey and other countries are going to magically go away. And this is going to be the case here.
So, Mark, what do you think? I mean, could this visit provide an opportunity to open a new page in the two country relations? Because some say even relations could be reset.
Well, I don't know that we need a reset. I think the United States and Turkey are very close allies. They have a number of issues right now to resolve. But the earthquake is first and foremost, and I think America's approach is to help Turkey, giving this number 185 million in aid. I think the earthquake, if there's any bright light out of this horrible tragedy, it is the fact that it has loosened some hard positions on a number of things, but even on the points related to F-16, Finland and Sweden, I think those will move rapidly to resolution. They really need to, because the focus has to be on the relief of the suffering of the Turkish people and not on these political points. We need to move these away and focus on that. And I think that's the reason for the very good trip of Secretary of State Blinken, the optics, flying over the terrible devastation, seeing it firsthand, shows an interest and a devotion on the part of the United States to help its ally, Turkey.
So, Mark, both Stoltenberg and Blinken have hinted that Finland and Sweden's NATO membership bids should be addressed in the shortest time possible. But Ankara says that the two bids are being evaluated separately. So how do you think this is going to play out?
First of all, I think it's important to pay attention to the Secretary General Stoltenberg's comment. I think he recently said that the time was now for Turkey to approve Sweden and Finland's accession. I think that that's an important message. I think that the point will come where we need to make these points resolved. Senator Van Hollen was quoted as saying, for example, that he does not believe that you can have accession of Finland without Sweden. In other words, the F-16s, the accession of Sweden and Finland, the situation that's going, all of these things are connected, even though everybody says nothing is connected. Everything is connected because all politics is connected. And the point is, and the important point is, that we need to move beyond these political issues now, get them resolved, which they can be, and focus on the humanitarian effort. And I think in terms also of many of the countries, including the United States, who have stepped forward to help Turkey, that indicates that that's the focus. And I think at the same time, Turkey has gotten a lot of its positions satisfied, particularly with the trilateral memorandum and the support of the United States. So I think you go with that, and you go with that good position, and you make these transactions, particularly with Sweden, Finland, F-16s, all these things get done and move ahead. Because we can't keep getting stuck on this one, even though they're really important.
Okay, so Tudor, prior to Blinken's visit, several leaders and high-ranking officials from different countries also came to Turkey to show support, among them the foreign ministers of Greece and Armenia. How significant were these visits, you think?
I think that particularly the visit from Armenia, I think, could be quite significant, because in recent years there has been an effort to reopen the border between Turkey and Armenia, and this hasn't quite succeeded. There was definitely something mentioned last year that didn't, come to fruition, and maybe this will be the impetus to actually go ahead and pursue this. And with Greece, it's essentially pursuing the chance of pursuing more dialogue, so it's a little bit of a detente in otherwise tense relations. This is how I see it.
So, Mark, how do you see? I mean, how significant was the opening of the Alican border gate after 30 years to allow trucks carrying humanitarian aid and rescuers to cross to Turkey?
I mean, the truth of the matter is there have been ongoing discussions between Turkey and Armenia, some very good discussions in terms of some very good points forward. So this is just, unfortunately, again, the earthquake has brought together Armenia and Turkey, and I think it is highly, highly significant, very important, and particularly also with Greece. These developments, I think, are highly meaningful. And again, these unpredictable events, we're stuck with all these issues, and now this occurred, and people are turning their attention to helping Turkey and helping the suffering people in these regions. And I think Greece and Armenia, it's interesting, I read actually that Greece was compiling aid on this island, this contested island that's called Mais. They even were bringing aid from there into Turkey. So, you know, it is a good sign. And I think even with Israel, you mentioned before, I think that the people of Turkey do see this. And I think the people of Greece and Armenia see it, and Israel, and they see it, and it brings the people together. And I think that's really the key, where you turn away from all these political hotspots and you focus on the really important thing, which is helping people. And I think that will loosen a lot of these difficulties with these countries, Greece, Armenia, Israel, will be helped. Again, light in a very bad situation. And I think I am very optimistic to see what Arijan border, the things you talked about, the bridge that's being built, repaired. This is very, very important. Yes. It means a lot to the people of these countries, putting aside some of these hostilities and feelings and trying to reach out to the people who really need the help.
So, Tudor, can we say, has the earthquake had a political impact on Turkey's immediate neighborhood? I mean, how will its relations with the neighboring countries and regional countries move forward?
Well, for one thing, there might be a perception that Turkey has been weakened, but essentially not in the elements that might count. And I agree. I mean, this is of course dramatic, but nonetheless, I would say when it comes, to politics, particularly when it comes to security, it's always, there are no permanent friends, there are no permanent enemies, there are permanent interests. And right now, particularly in trying, to solve differences between these interests, the devil is in the details. So this will still be with us, particularly, the situation in Syria. It's interesting that, no one really mentions, the slight warming of the international community towards Syria by providing aid through, it should be said, the government in Damascus. There continue to be problems with NATO. There continue to be problems with Greece. Those are not going to go away magically overnight.
So, Mark, how will Ankara approach these normalization efforts with those countries while dealing with the horrific effects of these earthquakes?
Well, I would like to pick up on my colleague's very good point. And I think it's important to understand that the relationship between Turkey and the United States is so long-standing, and you got to look at the history too. So in other words, yeah, there have been disagreements, of course. Allies have disagreements, but I think that the basic relationship is very solid, and they're going to work out these issues as they worked out many other issues in the past. No question about it. But what's really overarching right now is this humanitarian tragedy. So they've got to be able to put these political points, deal with them. But again, about the relationship, I mean, if you go back in history, you see, again, and there's all these points that, Truman Doctrine, all the things, the relationship, U.S.-Turkey relationship in the region has been so significant, and it needs to be good. It needs to be a good relationship, and it is a good relationship. So I do think that there are going to be bumps, there are going to be glitches, there always will be. We're going to get over this. We're going to get the people of Turkey back on track and help the people who are suffering. And that is number one issue here that needs to be resolved. We need to focus on this devastation. And I think by having Blinken taken a helicopter ride and all the things that have happened that we talked about in terms of the other countries, that is where people are focusing. And that's the right place to be focusing right now. And at the same time, a result, a kind of fringe benefit, if you want to use it, of all of this, if there is such a fringe benefit, it is that we're focusing on getting better relations out of this, because what is the point of having these bad relations? Not good relations is not good. It's not good for anybody. So I think people are seeing this, and I think that we're going to come out of this in a good way. But as far as the United States and Turkey are concerned, yes, they have issues. We always had issues, but we'll resolve them.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on TRT World.
Thank you very much.